you need in your own local setting, and just pick his brains. It's going to be more of a conversation than it will be a webinar. It's not a lot of download. It's let's talk about the things you need, and this is how, a recommendation would be for resolving it. Please locate the chat function down on the bottom part of your screen. Feel free to use that. Please use that for communication. Please do not punch the share screen button. That we don't want you sharing your screen. If we're going to have a screen share, Justin will do that with us. Okay, Jenna, you've got one thing on participants. We've got 16 on the call here today, and you want to introduce them to raising hands, right?
Yes. So in case you guys aren't familiar with it, you can go to participants, and then you would see your all the names or your name. You can click on, I think there's a hand. Because I'm the host, I don't have that, but I think there's a way to raise your hand.
Yeah.
So go to right take your cursor to participants, click it. Click on it. Opens up a screen on the side, and you see all the names of the people that are there. And then down on the bottom it says invite, mute me, or raise hand. So if you want to talk, click raise hand. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Amen. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Justin, just after I pray. Okay. Father, we bless you. Thank you for the amazing thing that you're doing in this time of extraordinary need. Lord, we pray for all those who are caregivers and frontline workers throughout the world who are giving care to those who have become sick from the illness. We pray for your holy protection upon our bodies, souls, and spirits, that we may continually fix our eyes on you and follow hard after you each and every day. Lord, deepen our worship, deepen our fellowship, deepen our understanding of what it means to serve others in times when social distancing is required. Ask your blessing and protection on our congregations, those who lead them, lay and ordained, and be with us on this call. Lord, build a community of radical obedience as we seek you through this amazing thing called the internet. Help us to learn what we need to learn and to equip others along the way. Bless our brother Justin. Thank you for his time and all that you've shown him. Help him to help us in the way that we might advance your kingdom because we spent this time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you. Just a little bit of kind of housekeeping. If you're not muted, you may want to go ahead and mute just to help with feedback. So this is the kind of output of a couple of conversations or presentations that we've had. The first was a conversation or a presentation to the deans where we talked about the necessity of streaming our Sunday services simply isn't enough. The second was really a 3-hour presentation with Jay Cranda from Saddleback Church and myself, where we talked about what is the kind of the soup and nuts of building a digital church. And we've now come out of that, and we're hoping to have a series of really conversations, kind of curated and guided conversations, dealing with what are the technical aspects of good, better, best when it comes to our online services. Next week, I believe we're going to be focusing in on digital discipleship and how do we really do that community life and discipleship online. What are some of the tips and best practices and new innovations that are coming out? How can we really be authentic and dive deep into our community life and discipleship? And then we'll just kind of continue and go through until you guys are done. So happy to be with you all. I'm ecstatic because this is an area that means a lot to me from my own background. For those of you who don't know, I lead a ministry called the MENA Collective, which focuses on equipping and resourcing more than 150 ministries in the 23 countries of the Middle East, North Africa, Turkey, and Pakistan. So most of the time, if I'm not here in Virginia, I'm usually overseas in the Middle East. And so that's kind of the nature where for years over there, digital church, we've had to do digital church because if you come to faith in Christ from a Muslim background in most of those countries, you can't go. I shared this story when I was with a friend of mine who's an associate pastor of a large Baptist church outside of Cairo. And we went to go visit the cathedral there in Cairo. And I just wanted to go meet Bishop Benir and say hi. And he stood outside and he goes, man, I can't go in with you. The military police check at the door, and I was born a Muslim. It says Muslim on my ID card. I'm not getting in. And it was a huge shock for me to say, man, how are we supposed to have this vibrant missional life when we can't even bring people into our churches for things like baptism and communion and marriage and burials? And so there's a lot of things that we deal with in the Middle East. So we're beginning to understand in the US, some of the realities and necessities of digital church, virtual church, online church. There are many different names for it. But I think two things happen. And this is kind of where I wanted to start the presentation or the discussion today. Right now, when you think of digital church, just to kind of gauge the room, there are two camps that I've noticed in discussions with Anglican leaders kind of throughout the area. Not just in your diocese in particular, but there are those who say, man, I can't wait to, the quarantines to be lifted and get back to church and stop having to preach in front of a little camera. And there are others who see it as a tremendous opportunity for growth. And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about is really oriented towards the opportunity side. So I hope that you'll receive what we're going to talk about in that spirit. And so today we're going to take a look at the technical sides of what we're calling kind of the good, better, and best of the ministries and doing church online. So with that, if I can find my right PowerPoint, because that was the wrong one, here we go. Okay, so exploring the good, better, best of virtual church. This is really our technical conversation. The very first thing, kind of the ground rule that I would talk about as we're going through this is understanding the massive difference that lighting can make. So as you start with lighting, I would encourage you to think through good, better, best. Okay, what do you have that you can start with? Some of you may have church lighting. Some of you may have the ability to do lighting. But if you're doing your service from home, it's amazing the difference. So let me just show you. So you see here, natural light, but then when we throw a couple of just simple elements, a backlight, overhead light, some front lights, all of a sudden, once it gets into focus, you'll see there's a tremendous difference. Little tiny things you can make will actually have in the lighting element. So work lamps, work lights, that's better rather than just your normal lamps. But studio lights or photography lights or video lights are obviously best. But use Amazon. That's what I use. So we build micro studios all the time. I can't tell you how many times we've had to carry suitcases of equipment to countries in the Middle East, and we just leave them. And we'll build an entire studio in 2 days in a small room. And a lot of this equipment is the same equipment I use. So it's stuff that I kind of vet, and I'll tell you it works well. Everything from the small desk lights here, $51 for 2 of them, $71. These are the same lights that we would use in a TV studio. So they work great for a commercial television studio. They work great in a church office or home. The complete setup you see there on the right is available on Amazon for $179. It's the setup I use. So the light boxes are the same light boxes I'll show you here in just a minute. But when you think through lighting, there's a couple things that I want to point out. And again, yes, everyone will get a copy of the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to see this and walk through. When we talk about the 4 points of lighting, so there's the key light, kind of the main light. Then we have our fill light, we'll kind of add some extra space. the background light, and then the backlight kind of lighting from behind you. And when these elements are combined, it actually creates a broad viewing pattern. So here we start here with natural light here in the corner, and then we add the backlight. So you can see the orange kind of creeping through here in the books, right? Then we added the key light. So we still have the orange, but you can see the tone. And then now this is the picture with the fill light. So that's everything you see kind of brought into play in the fill light. And so, you can kind of pick yourself, you see the progression of the lighting. So it really does make a tremendous difference when we're actually broadcasting. These small little elements matter so much. So the basis of everything technical starts with your lighting. Then your cameras. Okay, so I am a big proponent of using what you have. So I dug around, and I just we're in the middle of packing and moving, so this was a great time to do this week. But I began to say, okay, what do I have around in my home that actually could work? So I found, of course, my iPhone, right? So they have 4K settings on it, and those are great to shoot with. And I'll show you a sample of just video I shot on my iPhone earlier today. But then I dug around and I found a Panasonic HD minicam that was in a box that we haven't used forever. Family stuff and the kids and finding baby pictures. And what amazed me was this HD cam has an HDMI input or output. So I could actually put this on a tripod, use the HDMI cable, plug it into my laptop, and now I've got a high quality HD cam that zooms in and out that I can put and use straight for my services. And it's something that was just lying around my house, but it does excellent quality on the camera. The other thing is, if you've bought a photo camera in the past decade, chances are there's a digital output on your photo camera, and this can also be utilized as a live camera feed as well. And so start with what you have. Don't think that you have to invest into, a Sony, Rebel, or into a Sony FS7 or a Canon Rebel. Sorry, Canon, not Sony. Use what you have. Now, that being said, there are little things that can make a tremendous difference. Holding the iPhone, right? Shaky, not really professional. Using a simple tripod. This whole rig was bought for $25. It's a holder for my iPhone. It's a tripod, sits right up on my desk. It provides excellent stability for my cameras. Or this would be kind of the better option, would be the tripod. And then you have best option. So this is a gimbal. It was purchased for $50 online. It's stable. I can control it and move it any way I want to. And the bottom of it fans out, so I can literally sit it right on my desk and it will control, and I can move it around. It even has the ability to follow. So if I move, if the camera was connected to it, and if I'm the kind of person that likes to walk around or move, or I'm going to use an illustration over here, it'll literally move the camera with it and follow me. So $50 piece of technology, and it's a fun toy, but this is a great option if I'm going to commit to using my phone. Now, if you have the resourcing and you say, yeah, I want to buy a real camera because we're really going to go all in on this, then talk to me. Sony actually has a whole division just for the faith community. And so they have special pricing for churches, and that's who I partner with. And so I'd be glad to email and make a connection, and you guys can negotiate whatever you want. Since you're in California, you guys get the habit of not having to pay to have it shipped all the way from LA, which is nice. I have to deal with that, and that's a bit of a bummer. But those are some options. So as we're talking good, better, best, start with what you have. And if you need to buy, then buy incrementally. But know that there's some tremendous options out there, but just shop wise. And if I can help you with that, that's what I'm here to do. Now, microphone. All right, good, better, best. So, the mics on these are actually pretty darn good. But a better option would be something like a Sennheiser microphone, which plugs right into the jack on your phone, and literally connecting the Sennheiser mic and into your phone, you're able to get an excellent quality. So the video that I shot today was all done on my Sennheiser. And of course, the best option would be a studio grade mic. What you don't see right above me here, because of the way the camera is my boom mic that we have here. And so that makes a big difference as well. And so good, better, best. Now, when we talk about the mic, there's something I really want to point out. And I got to figure out how to do this without messing up so much the audio. So you notice on the mic, I've got this little here to avoid pops. And then if I'm doing it up close, then I'll use something like a screen that will go right in front of it. Now, it looks kind of goofy if you're doing this for a Sunday sermon, but if you're going to do a Bible study or something in depth, having it located right overhead where you can still hear and get good reception, that's a better option. So good, better, best. Now, how does this actually look, right, when we're actually rolling things out? So this is an example. Our friend Kais, this is from a studio I built in Jordan. We literally took a blank room, added some lighting, and immediately it looks like a completely different room, right? This is just with 3 lights. So one is a focus light behind him, the other is a colored light, and then the other is a white light on Kais. Those 3 simple lights in a white room changed the entire scape of the room, and it looked great on camera. But when we look at, what Kais has done, he's taken literally a budget of about $18,000 for everything. That's cameras, equipment, microphones, laptop computers, and he's been able to transform that into something tremendously valuable. And so I wanted to show you kind of what that looks like. And while I pull this up, I know that we have a question. So the brand of a better microphone. Okay. Gail, it's a great question, and people are completely picky when it comes to microphones, particularly if you ask your worship arts folks. They're all going to have their own preference or brand. For speaking specifically, I'm a big fan of Yeti. Yeti is a great mic for podcasting. It's a great mic for meetings. Some prefer it, some don't. Just depends. I happen to like Yeti because I can put it on a boom rig like this, or I can put it on my desk. Some of them have that real classy look, some don't. The lapel mic I use is a Rode mic, R-O-D-E, and I really like those as well. Sennheiser has some great mics as well. The important thing is just to shop and know your budget. So the quality of mic between a Sennheiser, a Rode, and a Yeti vary dramatically. So you want to think through your medium. Yeti, they don't plug into a mixer well. So they're really only made for USB. And that's how the mic I'm talking to you now. Whereas my Rode can plug right into a mixer. If your church has a small mixer, great. If you're trying to blend audio, like let's say you have the way that we do it at Winchester, we have our worship, is in another room. So Patrick is our rector. He's in front with the Yeti. And then in the next room over is Jordan and the kids, and they're leading worship. And they've got a simple 2-channel mixer that is going in. So everything that comes out of that room gets plugged into the mixer, Patrick's mic, and then out of the little Eddie roll mixer, it goes into his laptop and connects. And so it's a real seamless, smooth operation. And I think the total setup with cables and the mixer was around $250. So it depends. Mixers you can spend a ton of money on as well. Again, it just depends on your inputs. So typically, there's a challenge when it comes to making sure that you have your inputs done right. The simplest thing is if you have 2 USBs and you can have one USB feed coming in with, say, the Yeti mic, and another USB feed coming off of a digital mixer with your music that's been balanced. Because nothing's worse than trying to listen to music online anyways, and then it's completely not balanced. So you want to be able to balance out the audio and the mixing there. Does that make sense? Okay. So when I'll bring back the example from the studio here in just a second. So as you have now gone through and you figure out, okay, this is the mics, these are the lights, this is kind of the area you want to use. So you next want to think through the platform, and the platform really does depend on how you shoot. So what we do for Zoom versus how we would shoot for YouTube or Facebook actually does matter, because the way that we would frame the shot, the way that we would light the shot, the way that we would engage with it is actually going to be different. Zoom, we're kind of used to this format right now, right? I'm looking at a PowerPoint, you're looking at a PowerPoint. You know, some of you may have the bar, some of you may just have the speaker. It depends on kind of how you want to set it up. But generally speaking, the main source of the content you're being fed is not me, it's actually the presentation deck. So this is great if we're going through liturgy and we're sharing the Book of Common Prayer, we're doing morning or evening prayer. You know, if you're doing a worship slide, right, this makes sense. Facebook Live, really, you know, you're going to be limited by your constraints, and how you shoot Facebook Live, at least the way that Facebook recommends, is different than the way that we would shoot something for YouTube. So now all of them are interactive. You can have conversation and engagement, but Zoom allows simultaneous distribution to Facebook Live and YouTube, which is great. But what that means is you probably need to have somebody in Facebook and somebody in YouTube welcoming people, being a digital greeter, responding to comments, engaging with people. So it might be, even though it sounds like it's really great and we can get it out to all these different places, you want to be thoughtful and thinking through how are we best able to minister to people in real time as they come through and connect with us. And so finally, as a part of platform connection, I would think through on the tech end, okay, great. There are some tremendous tools. I recommend Switcher Studio. It's what I like to use for some of our videos at Mina Collective. And you simply drop in the videos. This is great because you can actually pre-record your sermon. You can pre-record an intro. You can pre-record worship. And then you stream it live, but all of this is pre-recorded. You can drop in lower thirds. You can put in a split screen. So have, you know, your homily on one side and your, you know, sermon notes or outline or PowerPoint on the left. Really gives you a lot of great options. And of course, you can also broadcast this out to Facebook, to YouTube. You can do it directly to a website and then embed that on your website all simultaneously. So that is something. Now, this is on the better option because you do actually have to pay for Switcher Studio. So for free, I'd recommend Facebook. They have some great native tools to broadcast live, as does YouTube. Totally free. To be able to add those kind of lower thirds and some nice features and transitions and pre-recorded content and mix that in with a live stream, Switcher's good. It's a good medium option. You're looking at around $60 a month in the investment, all the way up to something like the Church Online platform, which is, in my opinion, the best option. It allows you to totally customize and create a branded stream and a branded page for your parish. It allows you to have full interaction. You can upload PDFs. You can break into small groups. You can have registered community and communication engagement. And while the platform itself is free, churchonlineplatform.com, completely free, you do have to pay for a streaming service. And there's a wide range of streaming services available. The main thing that you're going to need to be careful of is, do you have the bandwidth at your location that you're streaming from? So, you know, you're streaming at the house and you may have, you know, 1 gig at the house. And then if you go to the church and you can only get 25 megabits up, or it's an older line, or you've got, you know, the entire, you know, parish has figured out the password to the church Wi-Fi. And so you go in on a Sunday and everybody's pulling down the bandwidth. Those are some real things that you have to consider, particularly if you're going to carry this forward, Lord willing, as things like that lift. So those are kind of my good, better, best recommendations. And I want to pause here at this point, engage, have some question and answers before we move into the next section, which is really going to be about how do we put our best foot forward. I was going to be really cheesy and call it giving it our all, you know, little liturgical humor there. So no, we'll talk about things like what's a good shot look like, you know, distance, the way that we present online. So I'm going to talk about all that in the next section, but I wanted to stop now and go through kind of the nerdy tech stuff and any questions you guys have while I look up this video to give you a sample of what we can really do with a small space. And just good lighting, good equipment, and a really small space, what that can actually do. So any questions? Anybody?
I have one. Using the iPad for Facebook Live, we're able to record audio and video all at once and just stream it out. Would it be good to get a camera that also has a audio input so that it's combined without having to mix it through a, does that make any sense? I don't know what I'm talking about. So
No. So you're talking about actually using the iPad to do the filming.
well, what if we switched, wanted to upgrade and say get a camera?
Yeah.
Should we get a camera with an audio input so we wouldn't have to do the editing, mixing work?
Yes. So most cameras would have the ability now, if it's a modern camera, to do both audio input and output. And that's helpful, but what you really want to do is, depending on if you're trying to embed or input worship music in particular, you're going to want that balanced. So what I would do in that workflow is I would actually have an HDMI cable, which has both audio and video from your camera into your laptop or into an iPad, because there are HDMI inputs into that iPad. And then the audio jack would go in as the audio input, and then you can select the audio input from this and then kind of set the other. So it can have two split audio inputs depending on where you're going. And the iPad itself, depending on if you used a third party or there's some free mixers online as well, that would be able to handle that. My recommendation is iPads are great if you're going to use it as a part of a app solution. So I use my iPad with Switcher Studio. I control everything from my iPad, but I'm streaming it out live on my iPad. But if I was going to do live audio input, then that goes in through usually my computer, and then from my computer into my iPad, if that makes sense. So the workflow there, it's not impossible, and there are technologies. So when I use Switcher, for example, I don't have any cameras coming into my iPad directly. It's all using the same Wi-Fi signal. So it actually connects to my iPhone, my iPad, my desk cam. It'll connect to all of those things remotely via the Wi-Fi signal. And it'll just pick up, as long as it's on the same Wi-Fi signal, I can use those devices as a remote camera. And so that helps me pull in. So the only audio input that's hardwired is the main audio mix. And so if that's coming from my laptop or it's coming from my, maybe my lapel mic. But once you had worship, at that point, you really do need to put it into a laptop so that you can mix the sound properly. Otherwise, it just sounds really, tunneled, or it'll sound like it's not really good and muffled, or it'll be so loud because it's going to try to auto mix. And that's where it gets bad, because, then you can't even hear the words. All you hear is the music. And that's not really an enjoyable, it's making a joyful noise, but it's not really joyful. So those are some things to really consider. Yeah, good question, Carl. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing.
I think Tanya has a question.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself there. I just had a quick question about when you're streaming to different platforms, like right now, we're going through Facebook Live and we just have it embedded on our website so that people can have easy access. We have a YouTube channel, for videos and stuff, but in terms of streaming at the same time to YouTube, do you find it advantage to have it on multiple platforms like that, or is it just okay to have it on your website and stuff?
So this is, and I'm really glad you asked this question, because I'm gonna actually talk about this in the next section a little bit. But there are different people that you're trying to actually minister to online, and different people will come about you different ways. And so those who know you, they're gonna go to your website, particularly if they're part of the parish already, right? And you tell them, go to our website. The nice thing about Facebook, and this is what we've experienced, is we've encouraged our parish to share. And we tell people right in the very beginning, hey, if you feel like this service would bless somebody, please share it on Facebook, invite them, host a watch party, whatever that engagement is. When we did Holy Week from Christ Church in Jerusalem, that was kind of the first thing we do, is let people know, hey, if you feel like this would bless somebody, please invite them, share them. Well, just simply by doing that, we increased the the online viewing video time by literally 30,000%. And all it was just ask people to share. And that was the most simplest thing in the world we could do. But just to say, hey, if you feel like this would bless somebody you know, share them and invite them. I've shared this story. My cousin, I married her in their church 14. Let me preface that. This is where punctuation matters. I performed the wedding for my cousin 14 years ago. And that was the last time that she actually, sorry, it's my birthday today too. So y'all can give me some grace.
Happy
So
birthday.
thank you. It's my 8th annual 30th birthday. So, you know what, that was the last time she was in church, was the day she got married. And yet we shared, and she started showing up to our church service. And she's an atheist, y'all. I mean, like lost as a goose in a snowstorm, atheist. But because of the COVID crisis, she's needing something, and she knows she needs something. And so she started coming to our service online. And then when it came time for prayer requests, our priest just said, hey, we can pray for you, let us know. And she wrote down a prayer request. And then he prayed for her. And she said, I've never actually had a priest pray for me. And it was these little things. Well, now she's been coming back every single week. And so, y'all, I'm like, man, God is doing something amazing through online. And there's no way she would have known about that service if we hadn't shared. So there's no telling what God is waiting to be able to do if we would just take those little steps of faith and share it. And that's a real simple thing we can do. So yeah, that's why you want to have it on your website. You want to archive those. Consider taking the audio and splintering that out. Now you have a podcast. So multi-purposing your thing. What about taking the text? And there are services online where you can transcribe. And so, depending if your priest is really good at, writing out their sermons. I'm not. I do an outline, but I just don't sit down and write down verbatim. So for me, transcribing, I do it anyways afterwards, just to make sure that I look back and I'm like, oh, I probably should never say that again. Or like, man, that was a good quote. Let's save it. But you need to be able to do those things. Well, now that can become a blog, or it can become an article, or it can become a part of the letter that you send out to your parish. So use that one service, and by putting it on different platforms, now we're able to maximize our digital reach and impact. And that Sunday service now becomes a blog, it becomes a podcast, it becomes a Facebook live cast, it becomes archived video on the website, and it becomes YouTube. And YouTube is so important because particularly if they're under 45, chances are, yeah, they're going to Google you, but they're also going to look you up on YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube, you just don't exist. And so YouTube is the second highest search engine in the world. I don't know about y'all, like I've saved a ton of money fixing our washing machine, drying machine, dishwasher from YouTube videos. Like I would be lost without YouTube. Well, it's the same thing. Just when people are looking for, how do I fix my heart? How do I fix my soul? How do I fix my marriage? How do I fix my parenting skills? They're going to look to the church. And so what a great opportunity to be able to minister to them if you're on YouTube. It's a lost opportunity if we're not. So it's a great question, Tanya. All right, let me show you guys the example I was mentioning earlier. Now, it's in Arabic, but it's in English subtitle. So, yes, sir.
Before you go there, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help us calibrate a little bit. The thing that I've noticed is because people know how to use Zoom, they'll use it. But I'm trying to get out here. If you're not on the invite list, you're not coming to that worship service, which means the focus of the, can you unshow your screen for a minute so I can
Absolutely.
see everybody? Okay. I'm trying to talk about the platforms here. If we have a desire to just reach our own people, then there's a pastoral need we're trying to meet with our people. What's the best technology for that? If we're trying to disciple people, and we really do want to have seekers in our discipleship activities, what's the best platform for that? If we're trying to create a public profile for our church, so that we want to use our worship services as invitations to community and to Christ. What's the best platform or platforms for that? I have done a lot of searching on our diocesan list of churches, and some of our churches say, come onto our Zoom. Now, can I be anonymous on Zoom? Or am I forced into a community? Is that better for the seeker or not better for the seeker? If I'm on Facebook Live, how do I find you if I don't know to go to your website? Or is that the only way to get there? If I'm both on Facebook and YouTube, then why is that better or not? What I'm trying to get at here is that the platforms need to have a decision-making process applied to it that I'd like you to speak to, along with an understanding of what is going to happen if you choose one and not the other, and what is not going to happen because you've chosen that one and not the other.
Absolutely. So there are three audiences that we are really able to reach, and hopefully trying to reach online through our digital ministry. So the first is our normal church audience, right? The members who are attending your parish. And Zoom is great for that because everyone can see each other. We're comfortable with each other. We know each other. It's a great opportunity to kind of see faces. And of course, on the Sunday service, most of the time it's turned off, right? Depending on if it's a Zoom webinar, if it's a Zoom meeting, or if it's like this, everybody can see each other. But if it's a webinar, maybe that's turned off. So there are different ways of approaching that. But by and large, it's great for the parishioners who are already active. It is a uncomfortable step for someone who's a seeker, because I have to show my face or my name, or it's kind of, you're the new space. And so in a lot of areas, there's not the comfort of trying it out that some would think. Now, the reality is, yeah, of course, you can click in, click out, no big deal. I'm not giving you my email address. I'm not, being cornered and, hunted down right before I try to sneak out the back before coffee hour. There's all the different aspects, right, that we normally face. But Zoom is one area. Now, what I've noticed is the number of churches who do Zoom, but don't do the next most basic step, which is within Zoom, particularly if I'm doing it as a webinar, I could broadcast that webinar to Facebook. And for the most part, unless you're really doing an engaged Sunday service where we're going to have 4 or 5 readers and we're going to have, a limb serve, and it's going to be kind of different people speaking in. If it's just your rector, and particularly if the rector is adding pre-recorded elements into the service, right? So the way that we've chosen to do it is we'll send out the readings. People will record the readings on their phone. They have to send it in to Patrick by Wednesday. He then loads it in, and we're able to add those as elements into Switcher. And he's just kind of controlling it as he goes on Sunday morning. But we're streaming that out. We've chosen to stream that out through Facebook. But that's partly because most of our people are on Facebook anyways. So Zoom is a comfortable environment if you know people. But I would encourage you, if you do use Zoom, use it as a webinar and then share it to Facebook. Now, is there an extra cost? Yes, there is a cost for that. So you do need to have a Zoom subscription. And that is one area of, so when we talk about good, better, best, free Zoom is 40 minutes. Zoom Pro, $20 a month. You can talk all you want. It does limit it to the number of people, but most of our parishes are not that size. And so particularly if you do it Zoom, and then for anywhere from $20 to $40 a month, you can add the webinar function. And the nice thing about the webinar function, like I said, is the split streaming. It lets you go straight out to Facebook. So if you don't want to spend the money on Switcher to do it simultaneously to YouTube and Facebook, you could spend less and have the same functionality of streaming distribution through Zoom, but as a webinar. Now, if they're a seeker, and if you're really targeting the seeker, this is where Facebook obviously makes sense. Kind of what I talked about, how being able to share. And so it's a comfortable environment. We're also able to really give feedback and conversation. So we have the chat here, but you don't see the chat unless you pull up the chat, right? If I don't pull up the chat, it's not there. Whereas Facebook, it forces me to see the comments. Not only that, but I have the emoticons. And Facebook Faith has incorporated some really unique, if they know it's a church, if I'm registered as a church and I'm doing a Facebook Live, there are new emoticons that have been added. So I have the amen, I have the praying hands, I have the hallelujah happy hands. And so it's fun because we're actually able to kind of engage, and Facebook has actually taken the steps to really respond to the faith community in that regard by adding those things. There was a group of us that approached Facebook about this idea over a year ago, and they said, yeah, let's do it. All right. So I thought they'd never do it, but they actually did it and rolled it out at Easter time, and that was really fun. Then to YouTube, because YouTube is the second most voluminous search engine, how that page looks really, really matters. So do you have a header image? Do you have accurate information about your parish? Do you have the ability to connect with people? So if you're going to stream a live video, you need to have somebody parked in the comment section with the church account who can actually respond in real time. There are some great opportunities to let people know, hey, we're here. We'd love to pray with you today. We hope this service blesses you. If we can pray for you and your family today, please let us know. And it's been amazing to see these nuggets of ministry time to people who otherwise would never don the door of your church. We have folks coming literally from the Middle East, from Europe, from Australia, from other parts of the country that would never, they couldn't even point Winchester, Virginia out on a map, but they're showing up on Sunday because of just the social sharing features. So when we look at that, that's why it's so important. If I could tell you one platform that I'd recommend everyone be on, it would be Facebook, period. Simply because of the ability to share and the ability to connect. Now, look at the Facebook page as the front of your house. So when people drive by your house, what kind of impression are you giving? Are you giving a welcoming, inviting place? Is it nice, or do you have the barking, the signs with the dog and the pit bull on the chain nailed down in the middle of the yard, right? Is it a place where it's like, no, I'm not walking there. And so you want to be careful and think through really, really carefully how those pages look, because they are the front door. Then Facebook groups is really like the living room. It's the kitchen table. That's where the real conversation can happen. And so it's really natural to go from a Facebook live broadcast and then say, hey, join us in 5 minutes over in the Facebook group. If you're not a part of the group and you'd like to join, we've got a special link that we'd like to send you, or in the comment section below is the link. Fill out our digital connection card. Simple, goes to a MailChimp account or a Constant Contact account or Church Builder account. And it just helps you add new contacts, new visitors to your database. But, if you send that out, we'll be sending you the invite, and you just use that as a way to kind of check the validity of people coming into the Facebook group. But that private group, you can do everything from classes. You can actually do 8-week courses in the Facebook group. So for discipleship, and we can go into the how-to do that next week. But Facebook groups is a phenomenal feature. And so you can see the funnel, right? We go from the live broadcast into the group, and that can be done immediately afterwards. You can incorporate video again into that group. There's also the push notification for the group. So anytime there's a small group, you could have a men's group, a women's group, a prayer group. Anytime those meetings go, bing, notification goes off on your phone. Oh, great. Oh, I forgot about the group. And you can log in. So Facebook has a lot of features built in that if you're just willing to spend the time, Faith at Facebook is a group within Facebook that's comprised of Christian staff and executives who do work at Facebook. And yes, there are actually Christian executives at Facebook. They do exist. And they're there to kind of help navigate the faith space for communities like ours who are wanting to engage on Facebook. And so they've created a handy guide and a whole subsection on resourcing. And so that's a great place to go. And there are practical how-to guides step by step on how to do that. But maybe next week we can walk through what setting up a group in Facebook would look like.
I think, Father Jose, you had your hand up, but then you put it down. Did your question get answered?
Well,
I think
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just a second, Travis. I'm gonna. I'll get right back to you. Sorry. Go ahead, Father Jose.
Okay. No, I wanted to tell Justin just briefly what we are doing right now at St. David's. It's we're not live streaming from the main sanctuary primarily because of light and sound. So we've created kind of a separate stage in one of the enclosed rooms so we can get better sound. I'm not sure our lighting is that great. I'm glad that you touch on lighting. But what we are using right now is Amiibo.
Yeah.
Familiar with that?
Yeah, it's a great system.
Yeah, we're using Amiibo. You can carry it anywhere pretty much. And we're using Tanya's cell phone, one of her cell phones, so that it captures the voice. And then she will edit and bring together PowerPoint and different things in there. And it's working very well for us right now. We can always improve, believe me. But I'm looking beyond this season. I'm looking to the future of what St. David's can potentially do. And when we're able to return to our main sanctuary, from the back wall to the altar area, we probably have anywhere from 60 feet distance, possibly 60, 65 feet distance. What we're doing right now when we videotape my sermons, which is all we were doing, we were not videotaping or doing live stream of the whole service. Tanya would come up, put the Amiibo in a tripod and use the phone and record the sermon and later audit. I want to move beyond that. I want to be able to maybe have a wireless mic that can be connected to our platform, to our audio system. But I would love to be able to have at least one camera. Maybe there's a necessity of two smaller ones. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I would love to be able to have a place in the sanctuary from where we can capture the reader, capture the musicians, capture the sermon and the service, and a team of people around that would be able to do more than just move Amiibo to the front and then move Amiibo and remove it. I want to take the next step. I want to see St. David's move to the next level. And I'm sure I'm going to need somebody to help guide us through it. And we will have to put some resources behind it as well. But I wonder what you would say about that, what recommendations you would say. I'm thinking of cameras from the back of the church, capturing what's happening in the front and not interfering with the congregation, what they're seeing or not seeing.
So Mevo is a great option, and I've played with it and used it at Micro Studios as well. The Mevo camera, we can put a link in the chat here for that. I like Mevo; it's a good option. The thing I don't like about Mevo is the battery tends to drain pretty quickly. So if you don't have the extended battery pack, or you just need to keep it plugged in, I mean, that's really it. But it is a good built-in option. Logitech has another one that's very similar. That's what I use, and the remote control here actually comes out. That's the camera, and it has the HDMI input and it has the plug-in. The interesting thing about this is that it also has natively the Zoom functionality, so I can zoom in and out on the camera. This I can actually get about 30 feet away from and still look. I can still get this size frame being 30 feet away.
Okay.
So it's really good. And then the audio input, I can plug in. I still have an audio input in the back. I have an HDMI.
You would still have to move it in and move it out, and replace it and replay and move it out. I would love to have something more stationary, maybe with greater capability.
This is where I would recommend, depending on the size, and that's something where, some pictures and some measurements, I could give you some good recommendations. But this is where maybe adding a wall-mounted camera or a Sony robotic or a Panasonic, that would make some sense to be able to put those together. And again, those packages, they vary, right? There's good, better, best in all of this. So it just depends on if you need the zoom functionality or not. If you can do kind of a more zoomed in just of the front where the altar and the platform is, and that's kind of more done above the door, and then maybe you have one to the right that's really focused in on the pulpit, and then one on the left where you have your readers or your worship team. So there's different ways to map that out, but I'd be glad to help walk you through that and give you some suggestions.
I appreciate it. We may need to move gradually because our resources have limitations. I can probably find resources because where there is a will, there's a way. But we would need to move gradually towards something. The other thing I need to consider is that we're renting from another church. And so if we ever move out of that place, I need to be able to unload all of that stuff and take it with me as well.
Yeah, and that does become a difficulty because, there may be some restriction. They may not want you to hardwire anything to the wall. And that could easily create some difficulty. So maybe what you have now is a good solution, but there are some other things we could talk through. I will put a link up to the Facebook group, and so don't worry about that, Tanya. But before we leave today, I'll put up the link for the Faith at Facebook. Bishop, does that answer kind of the question? Are we good to move on, or is there anything else you'd like me to touch on that point?
I think that helping people, we talked at great length last week about this, that helping people make the right choice on platforms will save them time.
Yeah.
And they need to know what are the various sub-functions that you know about that make it a better choice for them or not. And so again, there's no wrong place to start. It's just, where do you want to be? Right. And that helps to, I think what you've shared helps to give them an idea about it, at least some of that.
Perfect. And it does depend also on discipleship and community building. So that kind of leads into the next week. So, if you start with Facebook, there's a lot to build on top of that when it comes to discipleship and community building that's native, that you don't have to add anything else. And really, it's really about working harder and working smarter, not necessarily harder. There are ways that we can maximize the effort in what you're doing and not have to be replicating in multiple places. So
one thing that Travis, Jenna, you mentioned Travis was wanting to.
Yeah, Travis and then Pastor Joyce, they have questions. Yeah. Travis?
Oh, more of a comment. I mean, just coming from the InterVarsity world, in terms of discipleship, Zoom has been a really great platform because the ideal discipleship, at least with students on the campus, is like a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 students to one staff. And that just creates space. So you have that awesome interaction that you would normally have. And so I just wanted to say, in terms of platform, and then in terms of YouTube, I think YouTube is absolutely essential. If you want to reach anyone 45 and younger, you have to have a YouTube presence. 19 hours.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Travis, would you say that again, please?
Loudly.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I was saying is that in terms of the InterVarsity world, discipleship, through Zoom is really incredible. It's as close as you can get to a live discipleship session. And what we found is 2-to-1 is the perfect ratio. In other words, 2 students, 2 disciples to 1 staff. And then leveraging those students and staff to share as much as possible with everyone they know, and using those platforms like Facebook Live, the Facebook groups are a great place where you can chat. But the other big piece is, the Bible studies, and the need to do Bible studies and in doing inductive Bible studies utilizing Zoom has been really successful. And that's where you're getting a lot of seekers, actually. They're able to bring their questions, but they're also engaging in the Word in really powerful ways. So just as Zoom as a platform, I know InterVarsity's really doubled down. And then in terms of YouTube and its power, if you haven't checked out, am I working with some of the staff for Focus on campus, which is the Catholic ministries on different campuses? They have done an amazing job. If you look at their Ascension Presents on YouTube, the amount of videos and the quality of videos that from you name it, what they can do on there is incredible. So I would just encourage, as discipleship topics come up, do a video, send it out. But Zoom has been really helpful for discipleship. And if you're going to do any sort of Bible study as outreach, you just need to make sure that you're laying the ground rules for what does hospitality look like in those spaces. So I don't know if that helps at all, but just
what I wanted you to say is anybody under 45 will only find you if you're on YouTube.
Oh yeah, and that's if you're not on if you do not have a YouTube account and you want to reach the under 45, you're not going to reach them. I mean, because the thing about YouTube will even drive them back to your Facebook, because there's a lot of young families and a lot of people who are like, are kind of getting over Facebook in some ways. So I think Facebook is important as a landing page and you can build it out. But I think having that YouTube to bring it back to it is really, really important. So, I mean, I can tell you almost like 9 out of 10 of the young families that I know during Lent, for example, what was the first thing they gave up? Facebook. So.
Yeah. But that YouTube and that's hard. Travis, thank you. I'd love to know too, are you at all familiar or do you have any engagement with Right Now Media, rightnow.org? Have you seen that site?
No, I'll have to go check it out.
So that's one that we are in the, so I'd say I'm in the process of talking through some other folks about potentially creating an Anglican channel for Right Now Media and what that could look like. And so actually finding loading good Anglican content on there that we could make available. So that's something. It's, broadly evangelical. The guys come out of a pretty, conservative Baptist background, but they have a wide range of speakers. But they are the largest online library of discipleship content. And they're the largest Christian children's library content of any media provider. So, it's one of those things where like I can give my kids the controller and be like, you guys can have at it. Have fun. As long as it's on Right Now, I don't really care. But I can't let them loose on, any other platform, even their kids' platform are not friendly. So, not 100%. So, okay, let me show you what, because we talk about lighting. Lighting is so, sorry, go ahead, Jenna.
Just, I think Pastor Joyce had a question.
Yes, sorry, Pastor Joyce.
You said there were 3 different audiences.
Yes.
And you mentioned your current audience and seekers. What's the third audience?
So
or did I miss something?
No, sorry. So what I would say is you have your current congregation, you have your prospective congregation, people who are likely to come but they haven't found a church home yet. And I would lump that into 2 groups, honestly. You have people who come from a liturgical background who are looking for a more biblically faithful liturgical home. But you also have folks who come from a evangelical background that have just kind of come to the end and said, there has to be something a bit deeper, richer, and more historically rooted than what we're at. That's my personal journey. I've I like to say I'm a recovering Southern Baptist, 18 years as a Baptist minister, and now I'm in the process of going through the ordination process here in Virginia for us here in the Diocese of Mid-Atlantic. But I can tell you, out of the Bible college I went to in Dallas, we had a class of 60. About a dozen of us are now Anglican. And so it's a growing group. So you have that potential church audience, and then you have the lost. So you just have those who just don't know the Lord. So I guess technically you could say there are 4 audiences, but I lump those potential church audiences into one category, but really you could easily define it as 2. So what does that mean tangibly? You may perfectly know, and the people in your pews every Sunday may perfectly understand, why is the table covered in white? Why do we wear, liturgical vestments? Why do we have an alb? What's that, cassock thing about? Use these as an opportunity to also conduct a little bit of education, because as you're talking online and teaching online, remember that some of the people that are joining you may have no background in what you're doing whatsoever, right? Particularly as a lot of us online, I'm noticing a lot of priests are not wearing full vestment. They're just wearing collar. And so, particularly when we have, a name like St. David's, okay, well, great. And if Pastor Jose is in a collar and he's not in the proper Anglican collar, it's in a Roman collar, it's really easy. Well, is this St. David's Catholic Church or Lutheran Church or Anglican Church, or what sets it different? And so there's a lot of opportunities for us to add in little nuggets of teaching there as we go through it. So I think that's a good thing. Kelsey, I see your note there about coming from a non-denom world. Yeah, it's a growing journey for a lot of us. And so be thinking through in those moments. I did put the link in.
Travis, that's just his wife's computer maybe or something.
Oh, okay. Good. Sorry. Yeah, so awesome. All right, so let me show you with lighting, if that's okay. So we talk about here, can lighting make a big difference? So when I tell you we were in this room in Jordan, and it's a brick room, and it's the dimensions of the room are 15 feet wide by about 25 feet long, and with literally $250 worth of lighting. That's it. This is what we were able to transform that room into. So take a look at this. Now, subtitles are in Arabic. This program, it's one of our digital church projects we have in Jordan. He's targeting millennials, and specifically the college-educated millennial who has already given up on Islam, is really wrestling with atheism, which atheism is the #1 trend in the Middle East right now. And so he's created this whole ministry called Apartment 7. It's the home where you can come in and have conversation and dialogue. And so this is just the preview to kind of show you, but this is what literally with $300 worth of lights, $250 worth of lights, how we transform this room. So
هل يمكن أن يعيش الإنسان بدون معنى؟ كيف؟ هل العلم يقود الإنسان للإلحاد؟ مش هذا الإشي مستحيل؟ هل الله هو سبب الكارثة؟ أم هل في أسباب أخرى؟ هل يمكن لوجود الكون أن يعطينا دليل على وجود الله؟ الإيمان المسيحي هو ليس قفزة في الظلام، لكنه في الواقع استنتاج يصنع في نور المعرفة. هل هذا الكلام صحيح؟
It looks like it's almost fake, but it's not. It's the real depth of the room. That's a light panel we added to the wall. There's no window in there. We've added 2 side lamps, and then the rest of the lights are the same lights that I have. And it creates this amazing perception. You'd think you're in some kind of different, you would never imagine you're in the basement of a home. It's deep somewhere outside of Amman, Jordan. Well, I mean, you probably would because the guy's speaking Arabic, that makes sense. But we've literally been able to visually transform the entire space from this dark, drab, damp basement into this simply just by using the right lighting. And so it's amazing the difference that the lighting can make. Now notice, we had to hang the lights high. He wears glasses, so we can't have the glare constantly in his eyes. We don't need that, because then it doesn't make sense. You can't really understand. So we've had to be very, very careful how we film that, simply because we didn't want the reflection. So you have to be a little creative. Light boxes are great, but you can literally transform a dark basement room into a bright studio with just a couple $100. So, Pastor Jose, be encouraged. It can be done, and it is possible. But yeah, you can take baby steps, and I can certainly point you in the right direction on Amazon as far as finding some of those good deals, and just give you some recommendations. Okay, so let's go back to the next section. So, giving it your all, putting your best foot forward. How do we present ourselves online the best we can? Well, the reality is you've got 5 seconds to capture people's attention and 15 seconds to make them care. That's what psychologists tell us about online media. We scroll through so much content a day, particularly now that we're home so much. And, Lord willing, a miracle will happen and this whole thing will go away. But if any of the moderate projections are correct, we're probably going to see this come back during cold and flu season. And we very well may be right back in the situation where, heaven forbid, but we may be doing Christmas at home as well. So it's just something that we need to be prepared for. So really investing, I'm so glad all of you are committed to investing now, because it is a part of just the future of what church ministry is going to be like, I think. So how do you capture them in that 5 seconds? What do you put up? How we present. So I talked about those 3 audiences. You want to remember those 3 target audiences: the current members, the prospective members, and then the unreached or the lost. Those are the people that we want to constantly engage. And so maybe that means the language that we use, or we explain something, or if we use an overly Anglican word, we may need to add a footnote there, right? Well, that also means, this Eastertide, love Eastertide. But if you come from an evangelical background that's not high church, you have no idea what Eastertide is. It's like, are you asking us to wash our Easter clothes in tide, or like what exactly do you mean? So we just think through these things, right? And it's probably best practice for us to do anyways, but we see the same people in our pews week on, week out. We don't, they're just there. We know them. And so they've learned these things, but in an online audience, they may not have. So those are some things to think about. Now, I've put together this little helpful video, and then we'll talk about it. But these are kind of the things to avoid and remember. So this is just lessons that I've learned, and hopefully these are some lessons that will help you as well. Oh, wait. I keep remembering I have to tell you. Okay, good. I'm sharing my computer sound. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Here we go.
Hi there, and welcome. We're so glad to have you joining us for worship this morning. Now, I'm sure that you feel welcomed and warmly engaged all the way back here. And normally, when you're sitting in a pew, I may be this far away from you. But with video, we have to remember that things look even further apart than they are, and maybe even seeing the warmth and complexion of my face or the smile is sometimes missed in the distance. So this is mistake number 1. Don't be too far away. Unless you're overly dramatic, it's really hard to be able to even tell your normal hand motions unless you're looking like you're singing some kind of song or directing traffic or trying to land a plane. You also want to avoid looking and reading from the Word in a way that doesn't quite engage with people. So while it may be normal to read a script or to read from the lectionary or the Book of Common Prayer, you want to make sure that as you're doing so, you're actually engaging with people. So make sure that you frame the shot right. Speaking of framing, this is how it should look. Now, a properly framed shot should have a couple of things in mind. First of all, notice that I'm looking at the camera, not looking at myself. When I'm looking at myself, I'm actually kind of seeing it, but it doesn't look like I'm really engaging with you. It just looks like I'm kind of being vain and checking on myself. But you want to make sure to focus on the camera. Now, if you're using an iPhone, it might even be helpful to put a little red dot or a sticker right where the camera is. That way you can actually remember to stay focused and look there. Some phone varieties even have a red light. Certainly if you're using a webcam or a desk cam or a camera, you're certainly going to see the red light and know that's exactly where I need to look. Now, if you're going to shoot for zoom, you want to make sure that you frame the shot like this, where you have your wide margins, keeping aware of what's available on the side. Your head should be in the center. So it's convenient, you have a nice shot, you're well lit, you've used the lighting that we talk about, and you're using the appropriate microphone. Now, this is what the shot looks like from here, from your angle. And I'm going to show you in the next slide what the shot actually looks like from behind the scenes. So what you don't see on camera that thankfully it takes to actually make this happen. Now, what you don't see behind the scenes are the studio lights, the microphone, the setup, and everything available to actually make the shot that you're looking at right now on our Zoom call. Now, if you're going to be using Facebook Live as your primary distribution platform, then I actually encourage you to go ahead and turn your cameras and film it like this. Why? Because think about how we use Facebook. We normally don't look at Facebook this way. We're actually scrolling through and looking. And if you film your video content this way, landscape, Facebook will actually letterbox it in so that it fits the frame as it's scrolling through. So you want to get a better shot and a better quality, go ahead and actually use your phone this way. Now, you can also set the settings or the frame rate or the frame size on any camera device that you're using. But if you're going to go ahead and use Zoom or YouTube, then go ahead and keep it landscape, and that's a good format, certainly for an HD quality or a 4K video. But if you're going to commit and you're really primarily using Facebook Live, I'd actually recommend you go ahead and change that. Again, notice the same frame rate. So now it's a little bit taller, so maybe I'm a little bit closer. I might scoot in a little bit, try to be more in the center, but really you kind of want your face to be in the center. And it does obviously limit who else could be in the frame. We're not going to necessarily have other people in, so it is a bit more engaging. You certainly are seeing a bit more of me rather than the background, and so those are some things that you really want to be aware of and think through as well. So even pastoral ministry is taking on a digital form. So I'm going to show you real quick on my phone here what one of the tools that I like to use and how you can use it as well. So for ministry time, the portal from Facebook has really become a revolutionary tool for us. I can preload in folks, I can add contacts from Facebook or from Instagram. I simply select, it tells me which ones I'd like to do. And I have a video. This is my wife. You'll see it ring. You see the camera with me right there. And there she is. Hi, Jen.
Hey.
So the portal actually allows face-to-face interaction and engagement. This is excellent for pastoral ministry because I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, we're watching this on Zoom. It's kind of trippy, but the portal is a great tool. Now, it's on the best category. So we go good, better, best. This would be on the best end of how to engage and connect with your parish life and your folks. But this is a great tool I'd highly encourage you to recommend, considering particularly if this is something that can be underwritten or provided by someone in your parish. What a great opportunity to be able to connect and have this full screen experience in pastoral care. So Jen, thanks so much for piloting and testing this with me. Love you, hon.
Bye.
Then you can even rate the quality of your call. And so we got a little fuzzy at the end, so I'm going to give it 3 stars and then tell it done. And that's it.
So great tools, and I love it. It's kind of a different space, just another technology. So when you're talking, Travis, about doing those 2-to-1 calls, you can do that easily through instant messenger groups or through a WhatsApp group video call. Again, that's on the best end. That's about $399 for that set. And it's just a simple device, uses your Wi-Fi, sits on your desktop. And so those are kind of the different ranges of presenting. So we want to make sure that as we present, it's appropriate, you're well lit, you're framed well, you're keeping in mind those people who are coming in and the way that we communicate. Be yourself. They want to know you. They want to get to connect it with you. But that's really a great opportunity to do that. And then this last bit of the conversation, we can talk about some suggestions. And I have just a couple, I think 3 more slides to show you, and some suggestions on how do we connect well with that first-time guest. So any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns at this point?
What was Portal? That was a device? That was a camera?
It is. It's a device from Facebook. Yes.
And they have different models. So they have the premium model, but then they also have a base model. Both of them work really great. And Kelsey and I actually bought them for both set of parents before we went out to Ambridge so they could see Riley as she was playing. And it totally changed the game. And the one thing that's really nice about the portals is they are so user-friendly They don't even, like, literally you could set it up, like, especially if you have someone that's an older person in the congregation, they could literally have that set up in their house and they never have to touch it. They literally just go, hey, portal, call Bob, call Johnny, you know. It really is incredible. But anyway.
Awesome. Thank you.
Particularly as we're looking at ministering to elderly in our congregation, or to folks who are shut in, or to folks who are vulnerable because of illness. It's a game changer for us in terms of the ministry space. It also, it does sit on a counter, it sits on the desk. It's not something I'm having to hold, for one. And, the more that people hold this, it kind of gets tiring. And then, the laptop, there's a lot of distractions, right? So as I'm engaging with you on my laptop, I've gotten text messages, notifications. This is what you need to watch on Netflix. All of my emails are coming in. I'm seeing all that. So am I really able to connect as well as I'd want to? Sometimes no. But the portal, that's it. That's the only communication. I mean, it's right there. And so the depth of communication, it is kind of freaky though, because you almost forget you're having a conversation with a screen, right? Like I agree, Travis, it's a game changer. Yeah. And it follows you. That's the other weird thing. It's really cool. But if I move around, right? Like if my laptop was the portal and I go to walk over here, it'll move in, or it'll zoom in on me, or it'll push back. And so, but it's stationary. It's just the camera inside of it will move. So again, kind of a tech thing, but also how do we present? I think it's a great tool to consider.
Now, real quick on that, have you used, because I've never thought about using the Facebook portal to actually maybe do a sermon or a church service. Have you tried using the portal to broadcast that way, or has Facebook allowed you to do that yet, or no?
So that is the plan for Portal. It is not the current setup because it's mostly based on instant message or group.
Yeah.
But there is an app within Portal that they are experimenting with for streaming out to Facebook Live.
Because that'd be a game changer if they develop that. Because the quality, the way it follows you, you could save a lot on equipment.
Now if we're talking about Facebook, so there's a couple of things to consider. So we just talked about Portal, which is this technology that Facebook has put out. The other extreme technology, and I feel like it's worth mentioning just because of the nature of it, but know that this is what we're talking about is maybe really far-fetched for some of the congregations, but there is actually Facebook has launched Oculus, which is the virtual reality platform. And so we are using virtual reality to actually build churches targeting folks from Saudi Arabia, because the Saudis, they love VR. It's a toy to them. But we're actually building Arabic language churches in virtual reality and inviting these Saudis in. They think it's kind of like a cool game world, but these services are in Arabic, and they're like, wait, this is Christian. And what do you mean this is a church? And then they stick around, they stay. I had an hour-long conversation with an Iraqi. I'm German originally, background, my family is. And so I went to Bible college in Germany as a missionary there. And so, but I've always worked with Muslim refugees in Europe. And so here, this Iraqi refugee living in Berlin, going to university, shows up in this group in VR. And I said, have you taken a statistics class yet? And he goes, yeah, I have. And I said, so you tell me, what's the statistical probability that the only two people in this room right now are you and a guy who's been a pastor reaching Iraqi refugees in Germany for 15 years? And he starts laughing and goes, yeah, that's pretty, I think we call it impossible. And I said, well, what do you want to know? Right? So we use VR, and now he's plugged into the church there, the virtual reality church in Europe, attending services in German with a headset every week. So Facebook is pushing the waves, and believe it or not, we're planning to have a conference with Facebook at Oculus on the subject of virtual reality church. So there are some folks within Facebook and Oculus that are really, really helping to open doors for the faith community. So that could be another way. that you're engaging. And who knows, we could see at some point a virtual reality mission in the Anglican tradition, the morning and evening prayers in virtual reality. So, okay, let me go back and we'll finish this up here. So reaching new guests, you really want to think about creating that welcoming online experience. So for one is having a digital welcome team on Facebook or on YouTube. This is just someone who's tasked with welcoming, greeting. Hey, we're so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us this Sunday. If they're a new person, encourage them to fill out a digital guest card online, right? That link that goes into CCB or Church Builder or Community Builder or MailChimp or Constant Contact, whatever that is, just put that link in the comment and say, hey, if you're a first-time guest, we'd love to connect with you. And then as the rector, meet with them online, set up an instant message chat or set up an information. And this means we probably need to be thinking differently about the kind of content we get from people. So ask them, what is your Twitter handle or what is your Facebook handle? How can we connect? Give people the option. I may not want you to have my cell phone number, but I don't mind telling you my Facebook address. On the other hand, some people definitely don't want you to find them on Facebook, right? Just depends on what kind of content they put up. But, in our church files, we should be including the social media IDs of our people so that we can reach them through instant message or through WhatsApp or through those technologies. Post-service, what a great thing we did. We've done this now 2 Sundays in a row. We've had this digital coffee hour on Zoom. It's been awesome. So good. And we break out into small groups and, it's kind of like, okay, I have a group that I'm responsible for in a room and Jen and I just kind of hang out and, spend time with our families. So it's been really, really a great thing to have. So just encourage people, even if you're in Facebook, this is what we do, Facebook Live, and then we say the link below, we will email everyone the link to the Zoom call. If we don't have your email, send us your email to this address, and we'll be sure to do that. We announce that before the service, in the middle of the service when we do our announcements, and at the end of the service. So 3 different times throughout the Facebook live cast, we're putting the email address out. Hey, we'd love to connect with you in our virtual coffee hour right after the service in Zoom. To get that Zoom link, we're going to email it to you. We do that for security and privacy. We don't want the meeting hacked. Not that we'd have any legitimate fear, but it does happen. There have been some very embarrassing moments that churches have found in the middle of discipleship groups or small groups where people have hacked, shared screen, and then are sharing really inappropriate content. So that's just a simple security mechanism. And then finally, as pastors, we love kind of talking shop in the narthex at the end of service, right? Shaking hands and just that kind of moments. Well, consider creating a digital narthex for your church, whether that's a time immediately after the coffee hour or in between the coffee hour, but whether that's through instant message or through Zoom or through a Facebook group, but figure out a way that you can carve out a time just for you to connect one-on-one with those new guests. Reach out to them. Don't just do the phone call, but really use the technologies to have that video call on instant message or that video call on Zoom. Let people see you and connect with you. It just adds a whole new level of intimacy and connection with you. And I think what you'll find is as we do that, as we engage, when we can visit in person, we may be very pleasantly surprised at the new people that show up. But there are also people that will never be able to be in your church. And so they still want to be able to connect. They still want to have the relationship with you. And over time, they very well may be looking to you as their pastor, even though they're states away. And so, there's different ways to handle that.
It's 19:30
They may not have an Anglican parish near them. Others, they may be just beginning to go on this journey of faith. And there may be a time where it is appropriate for you to connect them with another parish that's closer to them or that's near them. Others, they're, with all things Anglican, we have a very wide net. And so there are some folks who hold views that, would be very comfortable with a female priest, and others who wouldn't. So we just have to be sensitive to those areas and how we minister to those accordingly. So it's a very unique opportunity to cultivate our digital community, but we got to keep them engaged. And so those are just some basic tips. And again, I think what we've slated for next week is really going deeper on the how to set up that Facebook group, how to set up a discipleship, how to set up a class in the Facebook group so that you could do an 8-week or a 6-week discipleship program or course inside of Facebook natively. And so we can talk about how to build that out next week. That's it for me for right now. Does that help? Questions, comments, thoughts, concerns?
That's right. Why don't you give Justin some feedback? Yeah, good. I love the thumbs up, Father Jose. Good job. Yep.
There we go.
Good, thanks. Good. Father Larry, thank you.
Thanks for being extremely practical and step-by-step on this. Really appreciate that.
Excellent.
Absolutely. And I realized the one that we did 3 weeks ago or a couple weeks ago with Jay was like a fire hose, right? And then, so sometimes it's good for me to kind of step back and say, okay, wait a second, let's parse it out. So I really appreciate, Bishop, you give me the opportunity to kind of do that and just come back in and parse it out and make it a bit more.
Thank you, Justin. I really, this was really, really good. It gave me a lot more than it gave me everything I wanted, and I can't wait for next week. Bishop, thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking the leadership of giving us tools that we can use. And I'm assuming next week is at the same time. You're gonna send us something?
Yes. Next week, can we do it the same time, Justin?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So 3 to 4:30 Pacific time. And the focus is going to be on the practical use for discipleship. Is that right?
It is, but Bishop, I'm so sorry. I just realized next Tuesday is Giving Tuesday, and I will be, because of the COVID response, we have an all-day Facebook event that we're essentially running for MENA Collective. So I actually cannot do Tuesday.
Okay.
But any other day next week, it's fair game.
Would Wednesday be okay? Raise your hand if you can do Wednesday. 1, 2, 3. Not so many. How about Thursday? Need to see all the hands up. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, maybe Thursday's better. If we can do Thursday, 3 to 4:30.
Sure.
Pacific time, and that sounds great. Yeah, I think that will be great. Tanya, Bill, and Travis have their hands up on the thing, Jenna.
Okay, sorry, I'm checking calendars here. So, Travis. Tanya.
Okay.
Question.
Sure. I just wanted to thank you for covering so many different platforms. I think that's one of the things that, as much as we all hear about different ones and have our preferences, that it's important to understand how they can work together. And I just hope that's something that we can hear a little bit more about, like realizing that Facebook and Instagram go together, and a lot of people like that we don't have to have the full stream somewhere, but some have some kind of presence on all those different places. So if there's any other, in the future that you could bring back, or bring in ways to like connect or have some kind of presence where it doesn't spread us too thin if we don't have the resources, but how to, navigate those, that would be amazing. It's really helpful. And knowing that Facebook supports churches, that's phenomenal. So I'm really glad to find that out. I wish we'd known that sooner. That's
right.
Really good.
Facebook, that's a big advance for anybody who wants to really look practically at these things. Father Larry had something. Father Larry, you have your hand raised? No?
I did, but next Thursday is fine. And I thought that today's presentation was hit it out of the ballpark. It was very informative and widened my horizons and actually made me a little more comfortable with some of this stuff. So
very good.
It's good. It's great. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Travis.
Yeah, just one little last thing too is don't underestimate, like, content development is huge. So like little, like 3 to 5 minute videos are huge, or like, especially on YouTube, like straight up like, hey, share your testimony in 30 seconds, watch this, boom. And then uploading that kind of stuff. Like, you have no idea how people will tag that. So the more content you can generate, the better. And it doesn't have to be crazy content. It could literally be like, hey, we're prayer walking today. Want to walk with me in prayer? Do a 5-minute thing as you prayer walk. Like, but just the more content you can be generating, and those shorter videos are ideal. Stay under 10 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and you'll get a lot.
4 is the sweet spot on Facebook video consumption. 4 minutes is.
Yeah. So why don't, Travis, why don't you and Justin and a few others who are familiar with this, give us like top 10 easy YouTubes that we could video and post on our own church's YouTube account. So things that would be attractive to people who are curious about the faith, and would also encourage our normal members in the things that all of us need to do, like, you know, how to have a social distanced conversation with neighbors, how to prayer walk in your neighborhood. It's a great one, Travis. That other things, but things like that we can do, and then videotape. It encourages our people and the behaviors that we want to see encouraged, and then the seekers also find it connecting because they're connecting with people who want to connect with them.
Like a powerful thing would even just be like a short video of like, hey, how can I pray for medical workers or hospital workers? Hey, right. Here's a collect, and just read the collect and then post it right up there on the screen. I mean, it can be literally as simple as that kind of stuff, or even just like how to pray, and then you just do a quick little boom on like 2-minute thing on how to pray. Like, it's real easy. Prayer is just when we talk to God, we communicate to God. Like that kind of stuff and those little bites is insane.
Yeah.
In terms of help.
Good.
You know, and think through explaining, right? We have days, we have, you know, church calendars, we have saint days. There are different things that we can actually use to teach, and kind of Anglican apologetics in a sense. So there's a lot of different ways that we can do those. And then, you know, I think thinking through how do we invite people in to join us for morning or evening prayer or comp line, in sharing those moments, right? So whereas a lot of churches scramble to figure out content on social media, like, you know, how cool is that we kind of have built into our daily life as Anglicans these regularly scheduled moments of prayer that are ideal to go online, right? Morning prayer, noon prayer, evening prayer, comp line. Like, that's a gem, and we've already got the content there. We've already got the prayers to help guide us, and of course there's extemporaneous things that we can throw in for prayers of the people, and turning those prayers of the people moment into a great time for Facebook Live, for example. So we tease up, hey, join me at 9 o'clock. We're going to have a time of prayer together. And then move in, and then maybe you switch that from a 3 or 4 minute video with maybe just a short encouragement and maybe the collect for the day, and then you go into, hey, I'd love to pray for you. Let me know, how we can pray for you, and then go back and actually pray for those people online through another video. So a lot of different ways to do that. But yeah, Travis, I'd love to connect with you at some point, and yeah, we could build out a list maybe for next week.
Yeah,
that'd be
just
great.
start generating something. What I'd love to have all of you be able to do is think about this for a day or two, pray about it. And then if you've got anything that you say, okay, this leads to this question. It's a question I need answered, or this is a thing I'd like to do. Tell me how to do it. Drop that into a quick email or text, kick it out to Jenna. Jenna will forward it to Justin. So he's calibrating his presentation for where all of you are in your development.
That'd be great.
So give us really specific, targeted things to talk about, and he'll come right to it, and we'll work hard on those things that advance you one step at a time. Okay? I think we're out of time, more than out of time. Justin, thank you again. This is a huge gift. You're a gift. We're grateful that you're giving us all of this that you know and you've learned how to do. It's just a blessing.
No, glad to. I did just want to, real quick, Father Bill, you had this question. I just wanted to get to it. Yes, you can broadcast on Facebook and Zoom, but to do that, you need to turn it into a Zoom webinar. Not just a Zoom meeting, but a Zoom webinar. And then you could stream that Zoom webinar out to Facebook and YouTube. So there is a way to do that. But again, that would be in the good, better, best option. That would be in the better option because it does require a pro account and it does require a little bit of an extra premium to do the webinar. So it can be done, but you are going to have to pay for that as well. So I just want to make sure we answered that one. So yes, you can do it. But thank you, everybody. It's always a blessing to serve any way I can. And Bishop, thank you for the opportunity. Praying for all of you on Sunday. And I look forward to visiting and seeing your services on Sunday. So I'm going to be dropping into a couple and just kind of seeing what you guys are doing. So it's always fun to get ideas, and we're constantly learning, you know. Everybody's got great ideas. So anything I can learn, I look forward to learning from you as well. So thank you.
And if you happen to visit St. David's, give us any constructive criticism. It will be welcome.
Sure thing. Okay.
Father, we bless you. We commend ourselves and one another to you now, that we might give you all the praise and all the glory. For you are at work in and among and through your people to reach many for your sake. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Bless
you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, Jenna, real fast. Can
Yeah.
you shoot me Justin's email just so I can follow up with him?
Yes. I can totally do that. I'm jumping on another call, but then I'll do that.
You're the best. Thanks,
All
Jenna.
right. Thank you. Awesome. Give the girls my love.
Father Bill here. How do we see last week's presentation?
I didn't record it.
Oh, okay.